It was supposed to be our first family vacation in years. After a decade of being treated like the background noise to my sister's every achievement, I thought maybe, just maybe, this trip would be a reset, a chance to feel included, to feel like family again. I was wrong. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. We were at the airport, the terminal buzzing with chatter, children dragging roller bags twice their size, and announcements echoing from above. I clutched my small backpack, the one I had packed carefully with everything I thought I'd need for a beach getaway. My parents walked ahead, my mother talking excitedly about the spa reservations, my dad fiddling with the travel app on his phone. And then there was Emma, my older sister, the golden child. She strolled like she owned the place, rolling her Louis Vuitton luggage behind her, sipping an iced caramel latte. She didn't speak to me. Not until we got to the check-in desk. That's when everything collapsed. "Reservation under the name Monroe," my father said with a confident smile. The desk attendant nodded, tapped away, and then handed over a ticket. One. A first-class ticket. "And the others?" I asked, hesitantly. My mother didn't look at me. Emma took her boarding pass with a smirk and winked at the attendant. My dad sighed, pulling me aside. "Listen, Ava," he said, avoiding eye contact. "There's been a slight change of plans." "Slight?" He exhaled, annoyed I had even questioned it. "There wasn't enough room in the budget," he said. "Emma's been under so much stress lately, she deserves this. You understand, right? You're an adult." I stood frozen. "What about me? You said we were all going. I packed. I took leave from work." "Well, you're always saying how independent you are," my mom interrupted coldly. "Figure it out. We're not holding your hand." They shoved a folded piece of paper into my palm. It was 3 wrinkled dollar bills. "For the vending machine," Emma laughed. And with that, they walked off. I watched as they glided through security, my sister blowing kisses to a flight attendant who escorted her to the priority line. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking, not from the cold of the terminal, but from the shock. They left me, alone, at the airport, with $3. I sat on a bench by the window for what felt like hours. I watched their flight depart. I watched Emma's first-class seat sparkle in my imagination as I gnawed at the reality. They had planned this. There was never going to be a seat for me. I was never invited. I was decoration to their guilt, a placeholder for "we tried." Tears threatened to rise, but I refused to let them fall. Not in public. Not for them. So I opened my phone. I didn't call them. I called myself back. I opened every app, every account, every number I had built in silence for the past 6 years. The freelance work, the startup consultations, the airline I had helped launch through back-end systems. No one in my family knew I had equity in one of the fastest-growing private air charter companies in the country. They called me a disappointment, a nobody, a girl who never made it. But they never asked what I was really doing when I missed Thanksgiving dinners or skipped Emma's engagement party. That night, as they landed in the Maldives and shared champagne selfies on Instagram, I booked a different flight. One with a view from the executive seat, not just first class. I flew not as a passenger, but as an owner, and I wasn't going to let them see it coming. The flight I boarded wasn't through a commercial gate. I didn't walk with the usual crowd, dragging luggage and battling boarding announcements. I was escorted through a private entrance, past a quiet lounge where sparkling water was offered in crystal glasses, and into a sleek black SUV that rolled me straight onto the tarmac. The aircraft was smaller, sleeker, quieter, but every inch of it whispered one thing: power. The crew greeted me not like a passenger, but like someone they had been briefed on. "Miss Monroe, it's an honor to finally have you on board." They didn't know my parents had just called me ungrateful, useless, and a burden. They only knew me as one of the silent partners in the airline's technological rise, the architect of the automation that now powered their global bookings, the invisible investor with a controlling share, and a photographic memory. As I sipped on imported pear juice and stared at the cloudscape through glass that didn't fog, I pulled up the picture Emma had posted on her Instagram just 2 hours earlier. She and my parents clinked champagne glasses in a cabana, tagged number family goals and number first class only. I stared at their grins at the caption, "We left the baggage behind." I saved the post, not out of hurt, out of preparation. Because the thing about revenge is, it's never loud at first. It brews in silence, in smiles, in silk dresses and well-timed emails, and I had just drafted one. The next morning, I landed in Doha, not because I wanted to vacation, but because I had a meeting scheduled with one of the airline's largest private jet clients, a royal family contact that Emma would sell her soul to shake hands with. I wore a tailored white dress, elegant heels, and diamond earrings, not flashy, just sharp enough to be noticed. The meeting wasn't business, it was strategy. "Are you ready to take full control?" the Sheikh's advisor asked. I nodded. "It's time." By noon, I had filed the paperwork to change the operating name of the parent airline, one that ran over 20 private jets, some of which Emma had casually mentioned in her future honeymoon goals posts. I changed the booking approval system to require direct authorization. From me. Back home, my parents had no idea what was coming. They thought I'd crawled back to my dusty apartment. In fact, my dad left a voicemail a few days later. "You better not cause drama. Emma's wedding is next week. Don't show up in one of your sad thrift store dresses." I didn't respond. Instead, I confirmed the custom embroidery for the inside of the aircraft they had unknowingly just booked for Emma's honeymoon. "Enjoy the flight, from the baggage you left behind." But I wasn't done. My final step was simple. I called the airline's main concierge team and said, "Block all Monroe bookings until cleared through my office." They called back in less than an hour. "Ma'am, someone just tried to confirm a Maldives return flight for Emma Monroe and Mr. Tyson Lang." "Decline it," I said calmly. "Tell them it was flagged by the system." Silence. Then, "Would you like us to offer an alternative?" I smiled. "Number, let them wait." Emma called my phone for the first time in 2 years. I watched it ring. Then she texted, "Why would you mess with my honeymoon? You're jealous. You've always been pathetic." She didn't know I was flying over their resort at that exact moment, sipping espresso. She didn't know the jet she had been posting selfies in last week. Now had my name etched under the cockpit. They left me with $3 at the airport, but I left them with silence, and a lesson still unfolding. Emma's honeymoon disaster went viral within a day. A travel blogger had been staying at the same luxury resort and caught the screaming match between her and Tyson on video. Emma was red-faced, yelling at the concierge, waving her hands in frustration. Tyson stood beside her, clearly embarrassed, holding their overpacked Louis Vuitton bags. The blogger's caption? "This influencer just found out her private jet was permanently grounded by her sister." I didn't ask for it to go viral. I didn't have to. The universe, it seemed, was just catching up to the truth. My parents called me that night for the first time in over 2 years. Dad's voice was flat, tired, like life had finally pressed in from all sides. "We didn't know you were doing so well," he said. I didn't say anything. "Emma's devastated," Mom added, her voice shaking. "She says you sabotaged her wedding gift." I stared at the marble counter of my penthouse kitchen. The silence between their words wasn't guilt. It was exposure. They weren't sad about Emma's heartbreak. They were humiliated. The story had spread. The resort had quietly informed them they were flagged as high-risk guests after their daughter tried to bully a flight crew. Emma's followers were turning. The girl who once bragged about private jet glamour was now being called the sister who bullied her way to nothing. "We never meant to hurt you," Dad said. "You just weren't—" He trailed off. "Weren't what?" I said, my voice calm. "Weren't valuable? Weren't photogenic enough to take on first-class trips?" Silence again. "We thought if we pushed you, you'd finally become something," Mom muttered. I took a deep breath. "I did become something," I said. "Just not for you." Then I hung up. The next day, I attended a gala in New York hosted by the very airline my family once mocked me for flying coach on. I was awarded for my innovation in aviation logistics. My name was printed on the invitation, etched into the glass trophies, and whispered across champagne tables by people in suits my parents couldn't afford to rent. But that wasn't the moment I knew I'd truly won. That came later. At Emma's bridal shower redo, weeks later, my parents tried to patch things up by hosting her a smaller celebration dinner at their home. They invited extended family, old neighbors, even the florist Emma used to babysit for. Everyone came. So did I. But not alone. I walked in beside my husband, the real reason I had been flying private, the silent billionaire behind 3 aviation tech companies. The same man they had once called a rebound fling when I met him after my startup's first IPO. They hadn't cared to learn his name. They learned it now. He kissed my hand, pulled out my chair, and when my father tried to crack a joke about how we never knew you had it in you, my husband smiled and said, "That's okay. She never needed your permission." The room went dead silent. Then, right before dessert, I made a toast. "To family," I said, raising my glass. "The kind that leaves you stranded with $3 and teaches you how to build an empire from it." My mother choked on her wine. Emma dropped her fork, and I smiled, because they had called me nothing. But I had become the woman who bought the airline they once praised, just to make sure no one else ever made a daughter feel like she didn't deserve to fly. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching.